know that everybody knows who's here. Of course, I'm Sheriff Chris Nanos. John Edwards is the Tucson chief here for the FBI, and he'll have some words for you as well. You know, this is really, for me, pretty new, all the media attention. So I apologize to you for sometimes I'm speaking in generalities, and I'm not used to everybody hanging on to my words and then trying to hold me accountable for what I say, but I understand. So we're going to try our best to be succinct with you in the future, and also more important for you to understand is we have a lot of work in front of us. We have a job to do, and we have someone's life who is in jeopardy. And so job number one is we got to find her, and we got to work hard to do that. I understand there's great attention on this, and rightfully so, and I appreciate it, and I thank you for it because it has generated a lot of leads for us. And so we're tracking those leads, and we're doing things with evidence that you would expect us to be doing. So having said that, we're going to set this up. I know that a number of you yesterday, you guys drove me crazy. Yesterday I was going from a.m. to all the way till 9, 10, 11, midnight, answering concerns and questions, and it's just too tough. And it's not fair to the case. So what I'm going to tell you is today we're going to do this similar to what we're doing right now. Here we'll take questions. It's not really my briefing, it's your briefing. You'll be able to ask us some questions. We'll probably shut you off after a while because I just can't be here all day. We have work to do. But we'll take some questions, and then in a couple of days, unless something breaks, we'll do this every couple of days. So, and we'll set up with you through our PIO teams to give you anything that comes up that might change, but clearly they will notify you on these, what I call media briefings. So with that, I'm going to ask John to come up. If you've got a statement to say, John, and then we'll take some questions and we'll get back to work.
Hello, I'm John Edwards. My spelling is Jonedwards. I'm the Assistant Special Agent in charge of the FBI's office here in Tucson. First, we want the community to know that the FBI is doing everything in our power to bring Nancy Guthrie home to her family. The FBI is working alongside the Pima County Sheriff's Department on this incident. In terms of what the FBI is doing, we are providing the following support. Primarily, it's analytical and technical support in the following ways. We're downloading and analyzing cell phones, obtaining cell tower information, conducting interviews, and providing any and all investigative support that the Sheriff's Department needs. We're looking at this from every angle, but we need your help. If you live in the area or saw something on Saturday night, the 31st of January, or Sunday morning, the 1st of February, please report it to the Pima County Sheriff's Department or the FBI at 1-800-CALL-FBI. Every lead and tip is important. We are aggressively pursuing and looking into every single one. Again, please help us bring Nancy Guthrie home. Thank you.
We'll take some questions.
Sheriff, is there any indication so far as to whether this was a random abduction or targeted?
It's like I said earlier, you know, we're looking at all the leads, and we don't know. We're going to assume both sides of that. We'll look at both sides of that.
Sheriff, any idea what Nancy Guthrie was wearing, or the type of car that she might have left from, or any identifiable information that the public could use to help with those tips?
We do not.
Sheriff, do you believe that one or more than one person was involved in the kidnapping?
I just no clue. It could have been one. It could have been more. I don't know. Let me get one second.
Is there any indication that Nancy Guthrie is still alive? We know the medication played a critical role here. It's been 48 hours. She needs it every single day. Are you looking for someone that is still alive?
We hope we are. We hope we are.
Sheriff, you said earlier that you don't believe there's a wider threat to the public. If you're not sure if it's targeted, why do you believe there's no wider threat to the public?
Well, we have crime in Tucson all the time, right? Like any city. And so there, when you say a threat to the public, is there somebody out there who's kidnapping elderly people in the middle of the night every night? We've not heard that. We don't believe that's the case. We do believe that Nancy was taken from her home against her will, and that's where we're at.
Sheriff, when you reference violence at the site, can you elaborate on that? And also, was there a sign of forced entry, any valuables taken, any bank or ATM cards used after her disappearance?
We're not getting into that. What I'd tell you is, like any crime scene, we processed this crime scene. We gathered all the evidence we could, to include looking for what? Fingerprints, DNA, camera images, everything you can imagine, and we gathered that out. Those things have been submitted forward to labs, to technological companies to help us, and we're like you. We're waiting for those returns to come back.
Did you find DNA that did not belong in that house?
The window of time from when she was last seen to when she was reported missing, and I know you guys are asking for help from the public, is there any way to narrow down what time you might be helpful? I know there was a report about a pacemaker dinging like around 2 o'clock in the morning. Is there any way to indicate to people, hey, look around 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. to help them identify what they might have?
You know, I really don't want to get into narrowing down the time, because narrowing it down means we could miss some tips and leads. We're working on with the data we've submitted for investigative analysis. We're working to see if that time can be tightened up. But for now, we're going with what we told you earlier. She was dropped off at 9:30, and she was found to be missing at about 11 o'clock Sunday morning.
Sheriff,
Let me get this one first.
DNA of anyone else found in the house?
We've submitted all kinds of samples for DNA, and we've gotten some back, but nothing to indicate any suspects.
Anybody strange in the neighborhood? I know you're looking at video of different surveillance camera, anything that we should be looking out at different cars?
I have nothing in that regard.
Have any demands been made by kidnappers?
We have all kinds of investigative leads we're working on.
Sheriff, we noticed that the camera on the front of the house is missing. Do you believe the perpetrator purposely took the camera?
Don't know that. We're looking into that as well. Yes, sir.
That scene been fully processed now. We saw deputies leave around 6 o'clock last night. We didn't see tape go up. You know, an Amazon driver was able to walk right up to the door. Is that pretty standard for how you handle this?
The scene is done. We're done with the residents. If we need to go back to get, maybe we want to do something with some other piece of evidence there, we contact the family and let them know. But we've turned that over to the family. I don't have the time, but it was sometime yesterday, I believe.
Have you recovered any tire tracks or any
No, ma'am.
footprints around the house?
No.
Was there any
Would
kind of
you please take us through the timeline that you've established of the events so far and with the potential details?
9:45, 9:30, 9:45, we were told she was left at her home by the family. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the family got notice from somebody at church that she was not at church. They went to the home, found her to be missing. That's the timeline. From Saturday night, 9:45, we'll say, to Sunday morning, 11 o'clock.
Have you been
Let me get somebody back here, please.
Have you interviewed the people that reported her missing, the people from the
That's the family. Oh, from the church as well. We're doing all kinds of interviews, yes, I'm sure we have.
Have you been able to access the footage from the cameras at the house?
That's all been submitted, and we're doing our best with those companies who own those cameras or built those cameras.
Are there any plans to release those videos from the cameras, from the surveillance? Are there any plans to release the video from the cameras, surveillance footage?
We don't even have them yet, so no, not at this time. This is an active investigation.
There's a report of a suspicious man a few doors down last week. Is that anything that you guys are aware of?
I'm not aware of it. My detectives may be. There's a lot of detective work being done, and I just can't get into those weeds or even discuss with you what they may not have learned. Yes, ma'am.
Report from the board yesterday. Are there specific resources that maybe the board has not granted that would have made a difference responding to this case?
Well, you know, that's getting into my own local politics. I apologize. Yes, the board a few weeks ago denied a request for more cameras, more drones, more AI capabilities with our own body-worn cameras. All those things, you know, that you'd have to talk to the board. I'm not probably not the right time to go into this. Let me get somebody else here.
Sheriff,
Yes.
do you believe she's still in this area?
Do we believe?
Do you believe she's still in this area, or is there somewhere else?
We don't know where she is. So we're like any investigation. You start from the point of where we last saw her, and we work out. And we are working as far out as we can go.
Sheriff, can you walk through the evidence of forced entry at the house, like any broken windows or whatever? Does it seem like people just went in and out?
There are concerns at the house that concerned us from the early on part of this investigation, and that's all I will tell you. Yes, ma'am.
Sheriff, is there any history with Nancy needing police at her place or concerns that she was worried about somebody following her or?
You know, our investigative team has looked into all of those things, and that has not been brought to my attention. So she may have had something like that, but I'm not aware of it.
What is the extent of collaboration with the federal government? Obviously, FBI is here. CBP, are there other agencies also involved?
CBP's role in this was in our search and rescue mission, where we constantly use them. They have great dogs. Our dogs aren't tracking dogs for this. Theirs are, and so they came out and did that. Anybody else, though, that we've asked for help from, whether it's the FBI, I know if we needed help from CBP or DEA or ATF, they would gladly give it. I've heard from leadership from all sorts of agencies, not just at the federal level, but across the state, every one of them saying, Sheriff, you need anything, we're here.
So you obviously said investigators, when they got on scene, they found suspicious circumstances. When the family called originally to report her missing, did they say anything about the state of the home?
I don't know that. I don't know. Let me hang on. Let me make sure I'm getting some different people here. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, so there was blood that was found inside the house and you're testing it for DNA. How much blood and where was it?
I'm not saying there's blood inside that house or outside that house. What I'm saying is our team processed a scene like you would think of any crime scene. We go in and we process it. We look for things like that: blood, DNA, any kind of physical evidence, fingerprints, anything, and all of that is gathered and submitted to a lab. That lab will report back to us what they find. So far, that what we found from that lab is nothing that would tell us this is who did this.
We'll take a couple more questions, and then the sheriff's got to go.
Sheriff, can you walk through the evidence that was found at the scene in as much detail as possible?
No, I cannot.
What is the bottleneck to the surveillance footage? I know you said some of it is in the cloud, but you've also been reached out to tech companies that are saying they're cooperating. Why do you not have the surveillance footage on media?
That's what I tell them. How come I don't have this? Where's my evidence? It is a process, and I'm sorry, but you know, we're grateful that there's large corporations and companies who have bent over backwards to help us, to say, hey, Sheriff, tell us what you need. And so, yeah, I can't slam them. And we've asked them. They know the urgency here, but I'm like you. What do you mean I don't know that now? Yeah, it's tough.
Follow up on an answer that you gave earlier. You were asked if there
Last question.
You were asked if there was any ransom, and you didn't say no. You said we're following all leads. Does that mean a ransom has come in?
We're following all leads we have. That's all I can tell you. We've got hundreds of leads, and it's from you that produce those leads by telling people we need help, and I'm grateful for that. But I'm not going to get into all that. We have a team designated to deal with all of our leads. They're looking into all of that. We are sharing all of our leads with the FBI. They are helping us in evaluating those leads, how good they are, where that priority should be. And so we're just, look, I know you guys are doing your job, and you're doing a great job. But we have a job to do too, and I really need to back away from this for a while, and we'll see you, unless something breaks, we'll see you Thursday morning. PIO will give you a time frame, I'm guessing somewhere around 11:30. But
That's it. Thank you.
I need your emails. If you are not on the email list, get with me in the corner. I'll be right by the sheriff's side, okay?
So you are listening right there to the very latest from the Pima County Sheriff there on the case of Nancy Guthrie, Savannah Guthrie's mother, who has now been missing far too long. Of course, you heard our Jonathan Vigliotti ask that question. Are you looking for someone who you believe is still alive? The answer was, we hope we are. Of course, Jonathan and our entire team there in Arizona chasing every lead, as well as law enforcement and any revelations they have. Lindsay Reiser continues following this story, plus national headlines and your international headlines.
Okay, Reed, thank you. Obviously, very distressing situation there in Pima County, Tucson, Arizona, in the south of that state. Authorities not giving a ton of new information in the case of Nancy Guthrie, who is missing. Of course, the mother of Today Show co-host Savannah Guthrie, the sheriff there saying they don't know what she was wearing at the time that they believe she was taken from the home. This could be targeted or random. He was asked, could it be more than one person? He said, we don't have a clue. Are you looking for someone still alive? We hope we are. That was our own Jonathan Vigliotti's question. And then asked, if you don't think it's targeted, why do you think there is no threat to the public? The sheriff's saying he hasn't heard of someone out there kidnapping elderly people. They don't believe that's the case, but they do believe Nancy was taken from her home against her will. Again, fingerprints, DNA, camera images. They have collected this. They are waiting for results from labs and tech companies. Don't have surveillance images that they can release at this point. And when the sheriff was asked, is she still in this area? He said, we don't know where she is. Anna Schecter joins us now. She's the head of our crime and policing unit. She's been all over this. What can you tell us in terms of what you've gathered from what is said and not said?
That's a really great way to frame the question, because there is so much we don't know, and the sheriff might know more than he is telling the press and the public, and that's could be for reasons related to the ongoing investigation. We sat here covering the manhunt for the shooter of the Brown University students who also shot the MIT professor, and at these pressers, we would get very little information, and then at the end, in fact, when we saw the affidavit, they had been going through all of those license plate readers and surveillance cameras, and they did have information. So
it was frustrating for us, but they were protecting their case.
So hopefully that is the case in this case, but we do not know. Now, our FBI source told Pat Milton down in D.C. that there was a little bit of blood found at the home, which immediately became a crime scene. They are still working on the testing, they tell us, as to whose blood that was. They have not released that to the public. Forced entry, indications that she did not leave of her own accord.
What does that mean?
That she was kidnapped. Now, one thing that jumped out at me at that press
What
conference.
do the signs mean, though, if we know? Do we know anything about what signs there were at the home that would suggest that?
They have not given us a lot of detail, which is interesting. They've been very tight-lipped about that. What I will say is that very last question that was asked about a ransom, he deflected and he didn't answer that question. So that's what's on everybody's mind. Was that a part of this abduction? And we just don't know. We don't want to speculate yes or no, but we learned very little. I think what they're doing is giving these daily or every other day updates just to keep that communication going. This sheriff has actually been very responsive in answering all of our questions.
Almost to a fault. He said he can't do this anymore. It's unsustainable that he's been getting texts late at night and he's been doing a ton of media appearances. But
Exactly. We are scheduled to talk to him right now, actually, or a little bit later this afternoon with Jonathan Vigliotti, and we hope to get a little bit more information. But we just learned very little, and we don't even know how wide the radius is. The one thing he did say definitively is that he has no idea where she is, which is very troubling. That does not mean that law enforcement doesn't have some clue or is not in communication with someone. It could be so many scenarios, and we just don't know. We're in the same place that we were yesterday as we were reporting this story.
I want you to hang out with me for 1 second because I want to go to Andres Gutierrez, who is there, but I do have another question for you, so hang on, Anna. Andres, what did you gather from the presser? And you're actually outside the home of Nancy Guthrie there at the Catalina Foothills.
I am, Lindsay, and there has been no activity. As the sheriff mentioned there during the news conference, the house here was turned over to the family at some point yesterday afternoon. They were able to gather all the evidence they needed yesterday, and since they ended up showing up here on Sunday afternoon. Overall, this has been pretty quiet. There have been neighbors who are now supporting the Guthrie family. They've put a sign right next, a couple of yards away from the front entrance of the home, where it says, "Dear Guthrie family, your neighbors stand with you." Everyone praying for the safe return of Nancy Guthrie. Overall, this has startled this neighborhood. We're in the Catalina Foothills. It's in northern Tucson. This is a neighborhood where, there's just this thick desert brush. There is space between the homes. We're not talking like your average suburbia home where the homes are lined up right next to each other. It's spaced out. They're usually acre lots here, and this thick brush does create a cover if anyone wanted to do something malicious. And also notable that this neighborhood does not have any streetlights. So driving here at night, it's pitch black. So they were hoping that any home security cameras, whether it's cameras mounted onto the home or Ring doorbell cameras, perhaps may have, spotted a headlight in the distance that may have picked it up in the middle of the night. And so earlier in the interview that Jonathan did yesterday with the sheriff, they were able to narrow down between the hours of 1 a.m. and 4 a.m. But today, the sheriff said that he really wants to widen that time range because he needs all the leads possible. They've already received hundreds of leads. They're going through those as we speak. There's even the local Crime Stoppers here, 88 Crime, that is now issuing a $2,500 reward for any information that leads to an arrest. But overall, they're hoping that people can still continue to come forward to give these folks information, because regardless of how Nancy is that they're going to have to find the person or people who ended up doing this to her.
Andres, thank you. Let's go back to Anna Schecter. Let's talk about the manpower behind this, not only from an official law enforcement perspective, but private companies as well. He said tech companies when talking about DNA results.
That's exactly right. And also the tech companies that support law enforcement with their cameras. So, for example, Flock Safety. This is a big tech company. They have license plate readers all over the country. Thousands of police departments contract out to them. They have reached out to assist and support, just make sure they have all the technology they need. We are a couple of days out from the very beginning of this search, and I would be surprised if there's no license plate reader image or surveillance camera image that has been sent in as a pretty good tip that they might be running down, but they might be going down a rabbit hole, and then they find out, wait, that didn't work out. That process is probably underway right now. And those license plate reader cameras are huge. They take images of the license plate, but you can also get the make and model of those vehicles. So it's Arizona in the desert. There's no way that they went walking out into the desert. They took a vehicle, most likely. And so the image of that vehicle is going to be crucial, I think, to cracking this case.
I know that my control room team is going to kill me because I do have one more question. This is very close to the border. How does that play into that?
Well, this is a good question. And it's one arid, harsh area. It's really tough to be out in the elements. Maybe, is there some way they could have driven across the border? It is potentially possible. So that's a really good question, and it just makes this all the more complex.
Okay, Anna Schecter, thank you.